welcome to Dow Eternally, our little YouTube channel. Friday afternoon here in Bankers Hall. Well, I'm a block over from Bankers Hall. Bankers Hall is over my shoulder. This is Bank of Montreal, where we do our business upstairs at Private Wealth Management, Capital Management. Store is pretty much closed for the day, but the liquor store was open, so I got myself a little bit of a fruity Pilsner to enjoy the hour and enjoy our visit with Sacha Stone. So first off, I'd like to just say hi to Sacha. And then what we're gonna do, buddy, is we're gonna go around the little group that's here and just have each person, each woman and man introduce themselves quickly, a couple minutes, and then we're just gonna have about an hour chat. I'd like to kind of keep it focused a little bit on the monetary wealth side, like the private wealth side that you and I are kind of familiarized ourselves with years ago. And then, you know, if you want to chat a little bit about your tour, that would be great. Maybe we can start off with that, Sacha.
Sure. Well, nice to be here. Thank you, folks. And thank you, Randy. I'm glad that they still allow you to actually speak to human beings through the technosphere from fascistic central. God knows how you folks are surviving this implausible status quo. I just cannot wrap my small brain around the geometry of perversity that we see in the Commonwealth countries, but emphasis Canada. It's good to be here. I mean, and just come through a month of this tour. I've got a few weeks left to go, I think. And it's been very intense and quite beautiful in its way. I peeled off from the Arise Resurrection tour, which curiously enough I created. I was a divergence of paths. I will not be silenced or told what to say or what not to say, and nor will the 50 or 60 other influencers and activists who have joining me and Lee Dundas and Scott McKay, Patriot Street Fighter. So we've, in the last few days, begun our own tour. We're not playing chicken coops and cow sheds. We're actually playing venues and to a bigger audiences, and I think a bit more dynamic in the approach. I'm not claiming that I've been saved by Jesus, and I'm not praying for people. I'm actually wanting to speak with people and connect to people. To that extent, I'll tell you, I am loving, humbly loving this journey because meeting people. I've crossed the United States 3 times in the last month, and every time we stop, more or less, whether it's a Walmart or a truck stop or a gas station or whatever, we're recognized. I mean, Scott McKay and myself and Lee Dundas, between the 3 of us, we're just astonished by the fact that not that we're receiving adulation. That's bullshit. I walked away from rock and roll celebrity bullshit for that 2 decades ago. That does not turn me on. What turns me on is the fact that people of Middle America in the middle of the outback know about the International Tribunal for Natural Justice, know about the New Earth Project, know about, you know, the World Health Sovereignty Summit and the great works that we've all variously been doing. That to me says that the kingdom of the devil is all but over. And if the pulse of Middle America is harmonized to natural justice and the works that we've been variously doing, it's over, baby. We've arrived. The war is won, as far as I'm concerned. A few more skirmishes, a few more vaudevillian, you know, chapters to go through, like the one in Capitol Hill right now, which is just a delightful Punch and Judy show. And, you know, the Vatican, the Crown, all these other centers of vaudeville, which is what they are. Watching that stuff play out the demise of its own fiction is an extraordinarily beautiful thing for all of us to bear witness to. So I'm a happy man today, and I'm very happy to be joined by the rest of you. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful, brother. Yeah, it was only time I met Sacha was quickly at the ITNJ inauguration. We got a chance to shake hands quickly. It was a very busy time, but it's been a pleasure every now and again to get together with you on a Skype call or something. And I thought, you know what, I want to introduce you to a little crew that we've got here. And it's not Canada. We've got a couple Canadians on board, but I'm going to start it off with Benjamin Mensah, who's in Ghana, and ask everybody to just give a quick introduction as to who you are, a minute or so, and then we're going to get into a little bit more discussion after that. So please, Benjamin, give us a little quick hello to Sacha and everybody.
Sasha, hi. I have been listening to you online, and I've been discussing some of your thoughts with Randy, who I met through the banking industry, and it has been good trying to, bring in the, what do you call it, the new system which is in play now, and uh, he's knowledgeable, actually very knowledgeable in all that he has to say with the banking industry. And we are doing a lot of great things behind, and soon it will manifest. It will be seen by all. So that is Randy for you. And that's all that I have to say for now.
Good to meet you, Benjamin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Such a humble man. He's affecting government decisions and banking decisions in Ghana, so don't let...
We can't hear you, Randy.
Can half hear you.
Okay, it was just, I just wanted to say that Benjamin...
We're still not able to hear you, Randy, for some reason.
What the heck? Can you hear me, William?
I can hear you now. Yeah, you just came in loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that Benjamin is being humble. He's a very wise and intelligent, at the same time, banker himself in Ghana, who has effects on government officials as well as the banking industry over there. So please, Benjamin, let me give you a little more kudos. So next up, we'll probably go to a fellow Canadian, Ida, over in Ottawa. I think Ida has sent a few questions to you in the past as well. So Ida, would you like to introduce yourself quick?
Sure. Hi, Sasha, and hi, everybody else, if I didn't get a chance to say hi. I'm in Ontario, actually, and so it's quite locked down here, but we just opened up to a new level today. And what I want to say, Sasha, is I have you to thank for being introduced to Randy. I saw Randy on a video on your site, and ever since then, we've been talking and hanging out. And I've also, when I've been in a dire pinch for some intel and some whatever, I've emailed you and you've responded so quickly. You let me know that Greg Hallett was indeed the king way back when. That was like months ago. And the other thing that you let me know, I can't remember right now. So I'm just going to say hi. I'm not at all in the banking industry. I'm actually a therapist. And so I'm into mental health and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so if you ever want to talk about your mental health, you can come and talk to me.
Oh, that's cute.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ida. Very kind words there. I'll just let me just caveat that. I would never have said that Greg Hallett was king. I've known Greg for years. I regard him as a friend. I like him greatly. But what I've said to multiple people who've written to me over the last couple of years on the matter is he has a very formidable story, which is well worth investigating and listening to. But I've always been on the fence because I don't know about the validity of these seals and these thrones. And let me give you a little dirty secret, nor do I care. That's the point. I really don't care about them because I recognize that the Atman, that the divine essence of you and I is vastly, vastly eclipses that nonsense.
Thanks
Beautiful.
for clarifying.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Ida. Ida's one of our many Randy brain healers here, Danusha being another one, who I think you're familiar with, Sasha. So Danusha, can you just quickly give us a little intro that we probably don't know?
Hello, I'm Sasha, nice to meet you and being in presence here today with us all. Thank you very much. What am I? Who am I? Well, I'm filling my days with my humanitarian visions, getting closer and closer to my projects. I'm an author and write books. So we say that I am, but I'm not I am. I just do these things because I love them. I'm passionate about them. And also people know me as being a seer and a healer. And again, yes, I'm similar to Ida as well, Sacha, that on your thread, that's how I connected with Randy. And then I poked him to have an interview on my channel and he said, yeah, and then we've been friends since. And yes, totally opened my eyes much, much deeper into the banking world, the monetary systems, even though I did have a lot of knowledge about it anyway. It was just taking it even, wow, more expansive. And especially now writing the book, it's exciting, it's fun, and really to get these messages out because it's the truth. It really is the truth of all these systems and the hidden truth, which we all know is in plain sight. And it's just to share as much truth as we can. That's all it is truth. So thank you.
How else are we going to extricate ourselves from the spells and the bonds and the poisons? So yes, I salute you for that. Thank you, Danusha.
Now we'll move over to, and yes, thank you, Danusha. You're aware that Danusha also was the ghostwriter for Charlie Ward's book, Sacha, maybe or not, but Trisha is in California, and I think I saw her face up there. So Trisha, would you like to introduce yourself? Again, I think you know Sacha as well.
Yeah, hi Sacha, good to see you again. The last time I saw you was in London before COVID lockdown. That was quite a while ago. I'm having amnesia of timelines now with everything that's happening in the world. But if you don't remember, my work is in the medicine space, working with psychedelics, but I'm also writing a book, and my book is really about empowerment. And so really, when we look at money, it's about reclaiming your power. And so one of the chapters, which I think you'll all really appreciate, is called Multidimensionaires. And it's the idea of realizing your multidimensional wealth. And that's really the only wealth there is. So good to see you again, and really grateful to see all of you here and be part of this group.
Great, thank you. And good to see you again, Trisha. Thank you.
And let's move a little bit to the west to Christian, a nurse in Santa Cruz, isn't it, Christian?
Yeah, my name is Chris, and I am a nurse in Santa Cruz, California, and have been kind of out of alignment with my profession for quite some time, and then been on my own little hero's journey, and then this whole COVID nonsense kind of hit, and it's it's shifting my life directions that I didn't anticipate, but I'm welcoming the opportunity to get more in full alignment with my my soul's calling. So currently I just got back from North Carolina, Tennessee. It was with a group of about 50 people, and we're trying to form community out there, so it's pretty exciting. I've been following you for a while, Sacha, too, and I think I also found Randy through following you, Sacha. So that's me. I could go on, but I'll just keep it short.
Thank you, Chris. Very nice to meet you, and congratulations. I mean, anyone who's choosing this perfect past year of COVIDiocy to fully retool and repurpose their lives, that was the whole point of this Twilight Zone, was to begin that process of alchemization of your life. So I salute you for that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Christian. And I think we've got Angel just close to home here now. I'm about an hour and a half, 2 hours from where Angel lives. And Angel was a doctor in the past, but I'll let her explain that to you.
Yes, hi. Nice to meet you, Sacha, and the others that I haven't met until today. I did retire from family practice after 5 years. So I'm kind of proud of myself. That was in 1997, where I kind of went, holy shit, like what the frick is going on here? So that led to exploring, and my personal mission statement became to enable and empower optimal human health. And in that exploration, recognizing how many roadblocks are within our unsustainable system of systems. So, a lot of things I've tried since 1997, and really came to just recognize the economic system the banking system. I actually met Randy separate from you, Sacha, but I did, find ITNJ on my own a couple of years ago. And I really thank you for the work that you've done, for the powerful voice that you are, as we all are doing our best to find our voice and find our place. The thing that makes me most passionate now is to, after great exploration of consciousness, which I feel is the fundaments of our health and our reality, to try and find our optimal collaborative groups to truly bring in new systems that are going to work for everyone. So that's my 1 minute blurb.
Beautiful, Angel. Thank you. And again, I salute anyone who woke within that particular dream spell of doctoring, acting as the dry land doc for souls. And and God knows your profession has been more weaponized than I think any other profession on earth. After the priest banker class, doctoring and then nursing have been so weaponized, and in the last year again, that's what we've seen in such stark contrast. And the perversion there, of course, and the desecration is the fact that most doctors and most nurses, one imagines, sign up for that vocation for the very best reasons and the best will in the world, only to discover that they are mere temporal clerks and cashiers for a satanic pharmaceutical industry, which seeks one thing and one thing alone, which is to intercede between humankind and their true connection to source, which is ultimate wellness. So I salute you for what you did in 1997. That was a very, very propitious and auspicious year for many people, incidentally, who made a paradigmatic shift and retooled their lives as well. And that was what, 23, nearly 24 years ago, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. I can't see the screen fully.
Andrea and William.
Yes. But is Anna in, or did Anna make it?
No.
Okay. We have a lady in Poland that usually comes in, but we'll go with Andrea Grace next from New Jersey, a young lady who is very talented in her field, but also an advocate in the I guess you call it political realms right now, Andrea?
I just want to make sure you can hear me okay, because I'm using a different speaker. Is that okay? Yeah, thank you for the introduction. It's nice to meet you, Sacha. Angel, you're the only other person I don't think I've met you yet before either. So it's nice to be here and be invited. So one of the things I've heard myself say in this past, I don't know, maybe the 12 months, is that we really have to birth ourselves as our own doctors, nurses, pharmacists, lawyers, advocates. And so I've noticed for myself, I've spent the last, I don't know, 20 years meditating, being in the woods, spending time with friends, and it's been a very quiet, easy life, teaching classes, seeing my clients. I have a natural healing center here in New Jersey, which is where I am. And this year has pushed me back deeply into the realm of the solar plexus, which is the energy center for massive action. So we've gathered together community. It's the intent is to meet eyeball to eyeball, even in the face of the lockdowns here, as Sacha, you described. So I haven't kind of lived or locked down like other people have. So I haven't been psychologically scarred. So Ida, I don't need to, as far as I know, sign up for your services anytime soon. But yeah, that's me. So I'm glad to be here. Oh, and I actually came across you after I met Randall through a friend of mine. And then I came across your work later, but it seemed everybody else knew who you were. But I'm late to the party.
Wow. When you mentioned the solar plexus, this to me is very exciting. And I'd not considered that. I've been thinking, sensing, and feeling more, the psionic consciousness, the seat of consciousness being in the center, the kind of gut. And that this past transitional phase, this COVID pantomime that we've been moving through, has augured this awakening of the, in a sense, the morphogenetic interconnectedness of humanity, because of the technicolor distinctions and binary logic that's playing out in the theater of life when you're seeing masked goons stumbling around the street versus unmasked human beings. And it comes down to that. And people who would roll their sleeves up and allow a satanic interposition into their DNA of a lethal cocktail of chemical poisons, and willfully so. That's what's so starkly scary about the twilight zone that we've been living through. So for me, seeing that compression of evil, of wickedness, of witchery playing out in the world, what I saw coming out of it as the boon, as the great elixir, was an awakening of the morphogenesis, an awakening of the psionic center, the seat of consciousness within so many of us who are truly now able to see through the binary logic, the dualistic paradigm of this and that, night and day, good and ill. So that's the compression of the wickedness that we've all lived through, is forcing this transmutative, transcendent principle to emerge within the song of humanity. And I know I'm right about this. So when you mention the solar plexus, that to me is a very exciting notion. And can I just ask you, what is the etymology of solar plexus? Because I don't know. And what is its primary function?
So the plexus is a bundle of nerves right there. It's a literal, and in fact, Angel might even be able to give the etymology from a physiological or an anatomical point of view. And then solar is the sun. So it's the energy center that pertains to our human adulthood. So the energy center that is our relationship to our society, to community. And for me, for the way that I've interpreted what's going on is that we're deeply in the shadow of the solar plexus, and we'd have to move through the shadow of the solar plexus in order to birth into true human adulthood. And then from human adulthood, what will happen next will be the shadow side of the heart center, which is us opening up to humanity and humanity's function, which is in relationship to the earth, to then birth the true heart-centered consciousness.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
It's what's also fascinating about it. It governs the mental body. So it's why we can get spellcasted so easily right here at this center. Yeah, how we're so easily blinded. And it's been a fascinating journey. But to your point, Sacha, I think we have to, in order to maintain our own sanity, we have to maintain the cosmic perspective. And people who don't have that tool available to them have suffered greatly.
Bravo. Thank you.
Can you imagine, Sacha, like this guy who lived in a tree and chased bulls around and had himself chased by bulls running into this crew? My God. You know, like the only thing I could add to that is that, you know, the solar plexus is also where the liver exists, right? The liver, which is so crucial in this whole pantomime that's happening right now with our immune system functioning properly down there in that deeper level. And then, you know, bringing it up to the heart, as Andrea said. So it's just such a kind and wise group of individuals that have kind of come together here. And I was proud to introduce them. We've got one left here now, and that's William, who has been kind enough to take me on as my interviewer, my assistant, my guy that helps me out a lot with a lot of things. And I'll just leave it over to William now before we move on to the next stage.
And then there's William, the other guy. I'm here to fill in all the gaps. That seems to be the way that things have fallen into place. But I am grateful to you, Sacha, for all the things that you've done. I've looked at ITNJ and followed New Earth, and that's where I discovered Randy as well, just like Ida. It's probably the same recommendation, actually. And at first, I told Randy, I said, I wasn't sure about you. He was laughing in all his videos, and I thought, is he all there? Is he really? What is he talking about? But I hung in there, and before I knew it, I think I've just created a really good new friend, and not that far away, because I used to live not far from Calgary, and at one point in Calgary. Now I'm in Vancouver, and I really appreciate Randall and all these other wonderful people that I've met. And my job here is, like I said, to do tech support, but also I am an interviewer of sorts. I have a bit of a broadcasting background, so I definitely have a feel for being able to do this kind of stuff, and I like to do some editing behind the scenes too. So I'm just happy to join in and support, and I'll probably be jumping in with a few questions from the gallery here if we have time, but we'll see how that goes.
Thank you, William. Very good to meet you, and also good that you also recognized in Randy the poker hand, meaning to say the joker in the pack, the wizard. Truly, I mean exactly right.
I know.
The one who lives and inhabits the crack in the pavement. This is the duende line. This is the indivisible line upon which the angel and the demon do combat for the mortal soul. And it takes a very rare bird to be able to inhabit those spaces, and in a state of joy and mirth and delight, which is what makes Randy the alchemist in this particular orchestra. So I salute you for having recognized that in my friend Randy. William, thank you, and good to meet you.
Thank you.
On that note, I noticed William had his white hat on, and we've been watching your videos, Sacha, with that black hat on lately, and we're thinking, you know, if William can find another one of those white ones and send it down to you, that would be.
Yeah, that's my disguise. I'm disguised as a Victorian chimney sweep for this tour.
That's fine. And you know, the last little prop I'm going to hold up is that, you know, we have another friend mutually, you and I, in New Zealand, Miss Elizabeth Dawn, who I think started this process a while ago. And it was this mask right here, you know. And what we did with that was, when I first realized that they were going to force us to wear masks in this beautiful city of mine, where we have, and don't get me wrong, I'm far from a homophobe or anything like that, as you know, but our mayor is openly gay. He's overweight, East Indian man, beautiful man. I have nothing, I'm not a finger poker or anything. He's lost in space, and he's, you know, he's just strange. You know, all politicians are these days. There's not one single politician that's going to make it through this thing, because they're all going to have to either resign or hide or run, you know,
Yep.
One of the three.
Oh yeah, absolutely right. Bang on, Randy. The market awaits them.
Yeah, or be arrested. I mean, that's up to them. But this character, he's, you know, he's openly that way. So when I first found out that he was going to strongly go for this mandated mask issue, I wore a pair of these into City Hall on my face. And I said to 6 different individuals walking around City Hall, that same story. Okay, our mayor is openly gay. There's no problem with that. But I said, if he's going to wear his boyfriend's thong underwear, purple thong underwear on his face, will this work for me? And I looked him in the eye, and not one of them laughed. They'd all just look at me and say, well, I don't know. I don't know. It was one of those events that I thought I'd share with you, Sacha.
You should have set up a political party called Panty Sniffers Unite as well at the same time.
Okay, so I think that's enough of introductions. We got everybody, I believe. I think the other young lady wasn't able to come. It was probably a little too late at night for her. So, but I just, you know, we're not going to have too much time here, but I wanted to go over, because you and I, when we first initially met, we were talking projects with New Earth Nation, of course. And then, you know, it quickly became my interest, and, you know, following along with some of the stuff you were doing, to see that aspect of, oh my goodness, I see that, William.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Fabulous.
So the aspect of banking and the monetary system. So the first thing that I was involved in was these ancient asset-backed accounts, right? And I think I mentioned to you when I first met you that I was dealing with a Filipino man here in Canada that had claim to the Cruzan Philippine Fund victory notes as well as gold-backed certificates. And I followed up with a trip to Asia well, first I was in China, and when I was in China a couple of times, I was starting to sniff it out, let's put it that way, on the banking side, but still in the business mode. But once I got to Southeast Asia, it was, strictly banking stuff. So ran into that and then traveled down to Indonesia. And the first trip to Indonesia that I took, you and I were in communication, just Facebook messaging and the odd email and stuff. But you had run into, and of course, I think it was last summer that you initiated that meeting with the royal families, was it not? Or is that 2 years ago already?
That was 2019. I brought together 26 of these sultanates and kingdoms of Indonesia. Other kingdoms from different countries came in, were sent delegates in, but it was the coming together of about 26 sultanates and kingdoms. And that was 2019 summer, yeah. Jeez.
Time flies, eh? I thought it was this last year, but so it was and prior to that, you had met with Mr. Sino, who was, the M1 character in the Swiss Indo story. Yes. So, if you want to just kind of give us that little background, and it's just information.
Sure. I'm happy to. I'm sure. Happy to, Randy. Look, it's a really nebulous and ambiguous area of focus. And I've been involved unwittingly and wittingly since 2005. In 2005, I was first approached by, suffice to say, a director of the second wealthiest family in India, who I knew, who approached me and said, on behalf of the chairman of that family group, immensely wealthy group, would Humanitat, my foundation, get on board as an NGO with my diplomatic and political reach and access? Would I get on board to try to help bring about redemption for some of the monies owed to Asia through the sequestration of gold going back to the 1940s that had been essentially lent to Fort Knox in the US Treasury to rebuild the world after the Second World War, because it was that transaction of gold as a collateral behind the US Treasury that essentially was the rebuilding of the world after the Second World War. And I was asked, can I get involved with Humanitat and act as I guess we took on a trusteeship. And I was spent the next 2 years privy to and witness to an extraordinary journey where we were trying to get redemption for some of the federal safekeeping receipts that had been granted to the Indonesia by the US, by the Federal Reserve, the US Treasury, over 70 odd years, none of which had actually been cashed in. And so what I was being asked to do was to use my political access and to try to force the Federal Reserve to actually redeem and honor some of those FSKRs going back to 1946 or something. And we had a suitcase, a box with trillions of dollars worth of FSKRs in them, which we were then bonded to. So we, met with the Federal Reserve Chairman, Bernanke, and David Cohen, the Vice Chair. We got their signatures. These people acknowledged and acceded the fact that the federal safekeeping receipts that we were held in trust on behalf of the Asian Trust were de facto and de jure. They were correct and proper. And then we spent 2 years effectively going around meeting with AAA rated banks around the world to try and get any one of those banks that had live Fed screens to redeem a single note. I would literally, out of the trillions of dollars that we were representing for redemption, we would pull out one small note, let's say 1 billion, going back to 1951, and we would be sat, essentially with the banks, and the screens would go live, and the Federal Reserve would lean in and go, "What do you want?" And our bankers would have say, "Well, we've got the client with us, and this is the federal safekeeping number XYZ," and the feds would go, and our banks would say, "Well, is there a problem?" And the Federal Reserve would say, "No, not unless you don't want to lose your license tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Fuck off." So I learned in 2005, getting on for 20 years ago, 17, 18 years ago, I learned hard about the criminal conspiracy behind the global bankster phenomenon, and that it didn't matter. The bonds and the treaties and the covenants did not matter a jot. They were all struck by the goddamn Jesuits in the first place. And the same lies were told to the Filipinos, to the Chinese, to the Indonesians, to the Mozambicans, to the Brazilians. That was the point of the goddamned, and I mean goddamned in the true sense, Jesuitical order operating through the so-called Roman Catholic Church. You know, over 400 or 500 years of blood cult and the butchery of my beloved black skin, brown skin, red skin, and yellow skin, brothers and sisters. So the imperial hegemony of the crowns of Europe on the back of the Caesars of Rome was a monstrous satanic and luciferic cycle of ritual harvest of humanity, whilst the Jesuits stole all the gold, stole all the jewels, heisted all the land. It was a monstrous land grab, using the intoxicated crowns of Belgium and France and Germany and England and Scotland and France and Portugal and Spain and so on. So all of that, the utility of evil. A1M1 describes one of the living trustees who I did meet with at his request. And it's a strange story because in 2013, I received a summons. I remember it well because on that day I was on a live broadcast with Foster Gamble and Nassim Harriman and Santos Bonacci and some other people. I was talking about 0 Point Time, and I was hosting a live event which was a marathon broadcast. And I remember this weird note came to me saying, A1M1, the King of Kings, the holder of Solomon's seal, is summoning you to Cirebon Palace in Indonesia. And I said, well, tell him to fuck off, excuse my language. I'm not summoned by anyone. The living man is not summoned. The living man does not acknowledge a summons. And another message came back. I can't remember whether it was days later or weeks later, but another message did come back saying, you're cordially invited to Cirebon Palace, not summons. And I said, well, that's more like it. I'll accept. It took me a year or so but I did go to meet with him. And that in itself was extraordinary. I see that someone leaked those photographs to the web because I would never have released them. And if you type in my name with A1M1 and gold, you'll see these leaked photographs of me with him handling some of the historical gold. I went there to meet with him because I already knew a lot about the backstory of the hereditary collaterals. And he was extraordinary. And I liked him a great deal. And I liked his operation. I didn't much like what appeared to be CIA stooges loitering around the hotel lobby and acting as the kind of ushers. But I understand how that stuff works and it doesn't spook me. Bottom line is, it didn't work out too well for A1M1, Sino Sugya Tagorona. It didn't work out too well for him. He ended up incarcerated and I think only just got out a few months ago, I understand. And I understand from other elders connected to the collaterals that he overplayed his hand with the whole Swisindo bit and went too public, too quick. It went viral. It was out of control. It was uncontainable. And the one thing you have to be able to do is contain that kind of storyline. I've also met with Queen Salvacio Legazpi of the Philippines and had wonderful engagement with her. You know, Princess Karo Nakamaru must be fast approaching 90 and the last of the great Meiji emperor's granddaughter. And I've had a lot of engagement with her over the years on multiple continents. She's visited me in Bali and in London. You know, I've met with hundreds, literally hundreds of kings and queens throughout Africa, Southeast Asia, and even now in North America. I'm set to be meeting with a number of the Native Americans leaders in the coming few weeks. I'm interested in the story of how the black skin, brown skin, red skin, and yellow skin people of this earth were desecrated by the white skins. This to me is the story that must absolutely be anchored in pure truth, and right action must prevail. There is one hell of a redemption that will be needing to take place in this world. And I will be at the front of that redemption as a white skin. So that's what I live for. That's my dirty little secret, is that I'm seeking redemption. So, and that's why I allowed myself to be pulled into those storylines and to meet with so many of these hereditary leaders. And what did I discover? That they're all variously beautiful souls, all variously believing themselves to be the true holders of the true seal. And they don't know that there are a multiplicity of those same seals and same compacts and treaties that were struck by the same godless Jesuits 200 years ago, 300 years ago, and so on. So what I've been trying to engender in my way is to invite these various hereditary elders and leaders and stakeholders to all come together into a sacred ceremony, which I call the redemption, the great redemption, whereupon I would personally invite them to place all the treaties and compacts and covenants onto a table and set fire to the whole godless lot. And at the same time, that would terminate the invisible contracts and the visible contracts with the Roman Catholic Church, the Crown of England, and so on. So again, nebulous and ambiguous, and I'm still meeting with a number of these people, and I know that they are variously very connected. The Cherokee Nation here in North America, a very seminal tribe connected to redemption. It's a story that no one holds all the pieces to, and I've met with top brass military intelligence people. I know General Vladimir Kobzar, Alpha Omega Station, a white spiritual boy, AKA. I've also met with Spiritual Wonder Boy, who is the most remarkable Asian individual with hair that touches the ground and is always surrounded with his own guard. And this guy is the most titled noble on the face of the earth. I have a loving brotherly relationship with Spiritual Wonder Boy, not to be confused with White Spiritual Boy. You know, and so these code names that are all variously monikers, which were catalyzed between the Crown of England and the CIA, you know, back in the day. I just want all of these cats to come to the table. And that's what I'm trying to bring about, because I want them to exchange fire in the eyes. And that is the true collateral that will emerge, is the exchange of fire in the eyes. Yeah. Beautiful, brother. And, you know, just a couple of little overlaps there. You mentioned a couple of names like Queen Salvation, Legaspi. I traveled with her across Mindanao Island, and it was cute because they didn't want to travel during the day because the big white guy would get spotted and get his head cut off or some silly thing. But the most danger we had was when we were almost in Davao City. The young fellow that was driving nodded off once, and I said, "Hey, you okay?" "Oh yeah, I'm fine." So I decided to just stay awake. I was sitting in the passenger side, and the second time he nodded off, and I had to grab the steering wheel and give him a belt in the shoulder, and we hit the brakes, and we came to a skidding stop, and Queen was in the back seat. "Oh my God, you're my angel. You saved my life." She was so cute. And then the trip to Indonesia that, you know, exemplifies this idea that there's more than one. Like the M1 story is out there, but I ran into a crew called the Global Collateral House. And they had a very similar story to Mr. Sino. And the guy I met with in the back streets of Depok City wasn't far away from Mr. Sino. And they had they knew of him. They couldn't collaborate though. Somehow they decided they had to do it themselves, you know, and it was very intriguing and, you know, traveling around. Sorry. Well, indeed, you're right. But I can tell you that the Chinese and the Indonesians have now lent their collaterals in together to consolidate, and that's an important piece. But I'm also on very close terms with the Al Hashemi, and this is the overarching family that is essentially the wealthiest family on earth, if in real terms, in that they are the true owners of the collaterals, which is money sitting behind the petrodollar going back 3/4 of a century. And they contain everything from Singapore all the way through the Levant to the Hashemite dynasty, all the way to the Maghreb of Morocco. So there's about 48, 50 odd countries in North Africa and the Middle East, which are essentially owned and controlled and contained under the ambit or the aegis of the Al Hashemi. And I speak to Command Central there on a monthly basis and have a close relationship. And they're extraordinary. That's an extraordinary clan. And they're seeking the emancipation of Africa and the Middle East. They want their Islamic brothers and sisters to be released from the shackles of white man's poison. And so do I. And this is why I'm a trusted agent or party. I don't take coin from anyone there, but the work that I do diplomatically is important work. They need to have clowns like you and me to communicate through, because God knows they can't do it through the telegraph wires. They can't do it through Reuters, you know, and they can't do it through the dispatch boxes of Whitehall and the Privy Council, because they're all rotten to the goddamn core with Jesuits. To this day, it's an infestation of witches and warlocks. So again, it comes down to good humans, Adamites, those of us who stand in our Christed light, and because bullets cannot actually impact us. And that is a fact, well known at that level. Yes.
And you know, there was another one there, you mentioned the fellow that was M1 that's still in prison. Well, Ravi Rajrithochanan is a monk from Thailand, and another family, you know, like there's numerous, dozens of them, you know, like that are connected to this ancient wealth. And he got thrown in jail while I was in the Philippines. And then I got warning from my friend who's a Rothschild, Bauer, at the top of Barclays Bank, which is just the banking families, not the ones that hold the wealth in those banking families with those SKRs that you mentioned, but just the banking families. And he said, you better keep your fucking head down for a little while, guys, or you're going to end up in there with them. And he's still in there too. But again, he took that route of going public a little fast, got involved with Angola government, where there was some government officials wanted to get rid of other ones. So they threw them all under the bus, including him. He ended up being the one in jail. And the SEC and the Interpol just decided to leave him there because he did get, and I communicated with him over the years, and he admitted he went a little too far with his pride and stuff like that. So it's sad that good people like that end up in the clink for a while. But it's, you know, what I see, Sacha, right now, though, is that there's too many of the good family members of this ancient wealth that goes back thousands, if not millions of years, as we know. It's stashed away in the very tree roots of the trees that were cut off, that were miles high, you know what I mean? Like the Silicon days and whatnot. So that wealth that's stashed away is in numerous hands of people, each that, as I said to Anna the other day on the phone, or we had a visit with Anna von Reitz, and she's talking in terms of, you know, the credit back to the people, which is that Jesuit Vatican story of the birth certificate bond and reclaiming that credit. Yeah. And I said to her, you know, on the public side, Anna, that is very important, because not one of these accounts that I know of that are in the quadrillions and higher, you know, could do what we need on the basis of the population of Earth, like being between 5 and 7 million. We don't, or billion, sorry. We don't know what that number is, because like I said to Anna, and she laughed out loud, I said, I was in fucking China and there's not 1.4 billion people there. The communist CCP has just invented a number because it's worth credit, right?
Absolutely back, Randy. Yeah, good.
Well, I mean, it's common sense, and it's just, you know, grounded people like yourself and myself that are dove into this without any indoctrination, you know, like we're just seeing it for what it is. And when I see it for what it is, I spit it out the other end, you know, like it's like, okay, comes in here, comes in the ears, and I'm coming out this way, you know.
Well, you might ask Anna. She's in dishonor with me. A few weeks ago, she slandered me in the public domain, lied, and why she did it, I'll never understand. Telling her people that I'm funded by the Rockefellers, for Christ's sake, and apparently I'm the son of someone called Sir some Rock. I mean, I give up. I've only ever extended kindness and grace to Anna. I'm very disappointed. On the other hand, she did have a peeve with Robert David Steele that I do as well now, so I rather concur with her on that score, which is away from that. But having said all of that, yesterday I spent the day in the desert with Russell J. Gould, Postmaster General, federal judge, and I took Scott McKay and his militia to go and meet with Russell J. Gould, and that was an extraordinary piece. Thoroughly enjoyed that meeting, and that made a film for about an hour, which will be released in, I think, probably when I get back. Forgive me, I'm in the middle of a thing. One moment.
Just a quick thing to jump in here while Sacha's detained.
Sure. Perfect.
There was a comment that came in. It came in from Tricia. So I'll mention it now, and then I'll let you get back to what your point was, Sacha. Tricia was recommending someone when you were talking about getting all those different parties together. She said, recommend meeting with Jyoti Ma of the Foundation of the United Indigenous Elders Council. And I don't know if Tricia wants to add anything to that, but if you do, Tricia, just unmute and just quickly pop the rest of that in there, and we'll let Sacha get back to his answer.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with Jyoti Ma, she is the convener of the 13 Indigenous Grandmother Council, and she's created an organization called The Fountain, and I would love to connect you. And really it's about economic models with reciprocity with nature. And so looking at models, you know, through the structures of nature and guided by wisdom keepers of different Indigenous knowledge systems.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Trish.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, we kind of lost you there for a minute, Sacha, but I guess we're, you know, to tidy it up, we're probably getting close to the hour already, and I don't want to take, I know you've got a schedule that's very busy too. So your feeling is similar to mine, that we are at a time where these bankers can no longer stay in that position of monitoring and exploiting and manipulating. I never call it control, because there was always money or funding that was dribbling through from the private platforms that you might be familiar with to humanitarian projects, you know, higher level tier 1, tier 2 private trading platforms would always allow a certain amount. But in the last 20, 30, 40 years, the only funding that came through that was going to this globalist agenda rather than to private projects that were from something other than. So, but that being said, would you agree that manipulation and exploitation is being removed? Because the account holders that I speak to, from Yellow Dragon families to just simply blocked petrodollar accounts, like huge petrodollar accounts from Syrian people and Middle Eastern men that are on the verge of allowing money to come through these trading platforms into projects. All of that is pointing to a flood of new funding for projects on the private side. Sacha, would you agree?
Yes, I would. I mean, look, what's happening on a socioeconomic and even a sociopolitical level is so totemistic and symptomatic of what is happening at a galactic level and a cosmological level. The Earth is moving and the solar system is moving through the photon band and being illumined from within by those huge waves of vibral light, which are incrementally lighting us up from the inside. That's the grace of God playing out cosmologically. That is the revelation playing out. And as that vibral light impacts us incrementally and exponentially, what it's doing is it's tearing down the mask, the hubris, the psycho-civilizational hubris is moving into its natural organic dissolution. That's righteousness emerging. So when you get pedestrian, put your blinkers on and look at the priests and the bankers and the politicians playing out again on the Punch and Judy show of life, it's just what it is. It's tragicomic. It's just silly stuff. It's childish things. These are bad dreams by bad men, archetypes playing out, which is why we should be very grateful once those archetypes become so distorted and perverse that they actually take charge of the White House in, purportedly, in presidential ceremonies, and seeing the Black Pope staggering around with his little college of fetid cardinals with their little red booties on in the Vatican complex. And when you see this sort of hollow sort of vessel of Buckingham Palace, you know, and the Crown of England playing out its last poker hand on the pages of Hello magazine, you know, with the young grandchildren, and trying to prop up the flailing empire with the most ignominious copy. It is what it is. It's a godless tragicomedy playing out its last hurrah. Now, none of that's the point. The point is, where do we place our attention? That's the point. Where do we place our attention now, moving forward? And how do we wish to embody, enact, and manifest our own divinity into the 3D or 4D temporal realm? Just so you know, that's the legendary Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, whose house I'm a guest in, and she's doing Pilates back there. And I'll love to introduce her to you at some point, because she has a great deal to say on the stuff that we've been speaking about. So the point I want to leave this conversation with is our own Christed supernature. And that is the true quanta. That is the true collateral. That is the true jewel in the crown. That is the Jacob's ladder. That is why we steered our souls into this vector of time space, each one of us, to identify and re-identify and remember our divinity and embody, enact, and manifest. So let's just do it.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you so much. And I think we were, just before you left, talking about Russell J. Gould, but I think you have a film coming out on that. So I don't know if it's any point in really getting into details. So we'll wait for that. And is there anything else, William, that came in, or any of the other ladies want to just kind of give a final kind of touch up till we finish it off?
No, just the Russell J. Gould question, because we were halfway in the middle of it. We would love to have heard a little bit more of the experience. So if you can share a little bit, we'd appreciate it.
Well, he's a friend of mine and has been for some time. So there's not much I can share other than the fact that with Scott McKay and the Patriot Street Fighter Coast to Coast Network in North America, which is something which is, again, growing exponentially around the world. It's not just in America. That's a coming together of, when we talk of street fighting, of course, we're talking about people with dynamic consciousness in action, people who are prepared to take the fight out of their living rooms and tapping away on phone screens or on computers, and get into the fray. And then you take that into UCC and into all of these law forms, and understanding that we have to reverse the spells and the bonds as well. That's the street fight. The street fight is, how do we remove ourselves from indentureship to the proverbial serpent in the garden? That is what is about to take place with the meeting of Russell J. Gould, Scott McKay, and myself. So we're looking to be doing a series of probably seminars that will fully elucidate the processes of claim of life. Leave it at that.
Beautiful. Thank you, my friend. Well, I think we're probably ready to tidy it up. And I always leave this with some subconscious training of my own, and pass it along to everybody else, that please do that inner work. We know that that's so crucial. And this group is available to anybody that watches this video to tie into all of these beautiful minds that came into this video, from Andrea Grace to Danusha to Ida to Trisha, who I think had to leave, to Angel, to who else am I missing? Benjamin, and everybody. Thank you, God. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll leave it with this little final thing that I always do, Sacha, on all my videos, as you know, with peace, harmony, love, abundance, and freedom for everyone and everything every day on our minds. Abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria. We love you guys, and we love you, Sacha. Keep it up, and we'll talk soon. If I get this funding through in the next day or two or a week or two, I'm going to see you before you go back across the pond.
Great. Look forward to it. Much love to you all. Thank you, Randy. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.